So, good evening, good evening. Here we are, 7 o'clock, and we are lounging a bit. We're lounging. We've had a very loungy day. We'll just
Very
wait
loungy.
for a couple of people to arrive. So, we're live on YouTube. If you've not been on our YouTube channel before, then please hit the old subscribe button. That way you don't miss anything, and the notification bell, and you're good to go. Obviously, we do Saturday Night Live with Tony and Nicki every Saturday, 7 p.m. On relationship situations and circumstances.
Intimate relationships, wonderful part of our
refresh
lives.
That, and then we'll see
and
what's going on.
Because
there.
if you do make any comments on Facebook, I'm going to be on here.
Here we go. Fantastic. So, great. Yeah, if you got any questions, comments, anything you want to say, just tap it in the old box. If you're on Facebook, Nicki's keeping a bit of an eye. I think you need to go full screen on that. Okay. And then if you're on YouTube, we should see them on the comments here. So we picked a very interesting subject today where if you're in a relationship, then, if you didn't know before, there are said to be 3 levels of relationships. We learned this 20 odd years ago, something that helped us in our relationship to sort of identify where you are. Now, there isn't, we don't believe in sort of good, bad, right, wrong. It's more about a self-discovery, a bit of an awakening to what you're recognizing about your current relationship situation. And if it's not where you want it to be, then it's really great to just become aware of that. And this might assist you to go, yeah, okay, which one are we? Are we 1, 2, or 3? And which one do we want to be? Do we want to be 1, 2, or 3? So Nicki will go through them, then we'll have a chat. If it raises any questions, as I say, stick them in the box. Now, if you're single, I think the greatest thing about this particular tool, and I did this when I was single, so out of a relationship on my own for about a year, and really open to learn about intimate relationships. And what I learned about this was to be able to look back on my past relationships and go, yeah, so where did I hang out? Not knowing this, it's like a massive education, because as I always say, you're never educated at school about intimate relationships. Nothing. Not in the curriculum, yeah? And so, I did the best I could, but, perhaps wasn't the greatest partner in relationships before I got my education. Then when I got my education, I was better placed. So, Nicki V, what have you got to say about the 3 levels of relationship before we dive into them? Any precursor, anything you want to share?
Yeah, precursor, I suppose, is really about, can't find ourselves, definitely, Tony will agree, find ourselves so often, coaching people with this sometimes sensitive, sometimes difficult time of our lives, when for some reason either our intimate relationship life is not doing well, or we're single and we're just going like, where and how, and how do I find this perfect or seemingly as far to perfect as possibly can, which is why Tony said when we decided to share this philosophy, this tool, we said, look, it will be really, really valuable to look at the relationship you have right now. It's what we ask people, don't we? When they come to us for help, we say to them, let's look at your relationship life right now and let's get a baseline, as they call it. Let's find out what it is that is going on right now. And we ask them of various different questions, which all really point to whether this is a level 3, a level 2, or a level 1 relationship. So
now, it could be that if you're watching this as a couple, which, we'd encourage you to do, because once you've watched it, so what I do is always get a piece of paper and then, a bit like school, write down what level of relationship you think you're in, and let your partner do the same. So you're going to finish up with 2 numbers on your piece of paper. Now, it's then good to share, but you have to be very careful when sharing, because look, sharing can end up in the blame game situation, and all go downhill. So we have to go, right, so the truth, what I've learned about me, listening to Tony and Nicki ramble on about the 3 levels of relationship, is this. And from where I stand, without any blame or any of that, my experience of this relationship is I'm in this one. And the other bit you have to add is, and I want to own that, because, maybe what I've learned about me is that I'm doing this, and I'm just beginning to learn that maybe for you, that may not be working for you as much as I perhaps just thought it was.
Yeah, and I have to say that what Tony's just said and made sound quite simple is actually the most difficult thing we can do in life, which is to really look at something, really give it a sense of where we are, find out where the relationship is at right now. But then rather than make this about the other person, or rather than make it about the situation that's been going on, that we immediately look at ourselves. So before we share, we kind of, like Tony was just saying, we literally go, so I've scored it this, and the reason why I believe it's that is because this is what I'm realizing I do. Now, we say that in a way, don't we, quite flippantly, but actually think about it for a moment. When you think about which level you're at, as I explained the 3 levels, then you really want to be like honest. Where is it for you? But then immediately we're going to ask you questions about, and what's happened so that you've got there, because otherwise the conversation with your partner would not be great. Now, before I tell you the 3 levels, let's me, as Tony did, talk to people who are single. The very common thing that happens in intimate relationships is if we don't really work out what happened in the previous relationship that caused it not to continue or not to go well, if we don't find that out, we're likely to do it again and again and again and again. How many people, literally put your hand up?
I mean, I always share this story. We were at our relationship retreat, and this lady was really struggling. And I just remember doing an exercise with her where we went back in time. Now, she was about 45 from memory, and we went back in time. And I said to her, well, what was your first serious boyfriend? How old were you, and what have you? And so I wrote it on the flip chart, and I can't remember what name she said, but I said, do you remember his name? She said, oh, yes. And I wrote the name there, and I said, how long were you in a relationship with them? And she seemed to remember. And then I said, well, what about the next one? Anyway, we've gone from when she was like 16 all the way to where she's 45, let's just say. And this was quite a long list, but she'd never really been in a very long-term relationship. So, and so we found out the name of everyone, which was amazing that she could remember that. She remembered all the dates pretty much. She remembered the reason.
Women remember these things.
It's definitely elephant thing, And men would have forgotten all of that, Yeah.
Well, they'll be wanting to forget.
I certainly don't remember what her name was, but.
And don't forget women stack as well. We stack, we stack.
Anyway, it was absolutely incredible. So I said, right, okay, we sort of finished. Anybody else in the bushes here we haven't got on this board? And she said, no. And so I said, right, okay, good. So obviously we've got their names, we've got the amount of time we were in a relationship with them, and we've got, what sort of caused it to end, which she also seemed to remember. So I said to her, right, okay, so what do you notice as you stand and observe this board? What do you notice? And she couldn't notice anything until I had to sort of like point it out to her before she realised that actually she was the common denominator, and actually there was a pattern about all the breakdowns of these relationships. So actually she was in all of these relationships, and the pattern of the breakdown of the relationship was similar or the same for 30 years of her life. So she had a massive realization that she was running a pattern that wasn't working, whereas it's very easy to go blame the other person. I often say it's a bit like your car starts to not work. You've had it a few years and you think, right, well, I'll get rid of that one. I'll get a new one. Won't have the same problems. But of course, if you treat your car in a certain way, say you never get it serviced, you never do anything to it, it's going to wear out quicker than if you put some time and effort and energy into looking after it. So relationships, can I say they're like cars? Well, look, if you don't, service it regularly, that sounds a bit iffy, doesn't it? But anyway,
no, but I think actually, I'll let me get you out of a hole. You could look at anything like cars, because actually what I'll do is I'll try and remember the analogy as I go through the 3 levels, because I'm sure there is one. But actually it is when you're saying, unless you take care of it, unless you work on it, unless you service it, and unless you notice when things are going wrong and like nip them in the bud, as it were, then you could finish up in a situation where you are disconnected and unhappy, which brings me to.
But I think that also goes. Look, what happens when a car starts going wrong? I'm going to carry on the analogy now.
I knew you'd do
like
that.
These lights start flashing on your dashboard, don't they? firstly they come up amber, which is like a warning light. It's not like you need to stop, it's an emergency. But actually, when things are really bad, red lights start flashing on your thing, and it tells you in the handbook to stop and get some help or mend it or do something.
Or we have to reboot now in ours.
Yeah. But of course, what's interesting with relationships is so many people come to us when their relationship's got red lights flashing. Whereas actually, look, it's much better to come when there's an amber. You know, if you think, do you know what, this isn't going as well as it could be.
I'm going to use the traffic light signs for the 3, 2, 1 instead of a car, because but I understand the car analogy. And I think it's a really good one.
And I think, look, even if you're
better than the football.
But yeah, even if you gave your relationship a bit of a green at the moment, we're going, actually we're doing all right. It's still good to educate yourself, because if you haven't got the education and things deteriorate, then the amber light's going to start coming on. So it's always better. Prevention's better than cure. You know, and if you get a red light situation in the car, then likely you're going to have a new gearbox or a new engine, or you got to get yourself a whole new car. And that's going to cause you more pain than if you'd have had it serviced regularly.
Yes. Now, so the 3 levels of relationship. Now, it's funny. I was thinking about this just before we came on air and going, I can never remember whether it's 3, 2, 1 or 1, 2, 3.
It's 3,
but
2, 1.
I'm going to start at the bottom with
and
3 and work my way up. I don't actually think that's the way I heard it first time, but that's the way I'm going to stick with.
To be fair, this is not really at all. We learned this from
Mr. Tony Robbins. Is the first person I heard this philosophy on. What Tony and I have done is really fleshed it out. So let me try and give you, let's just talk about a level 3 relationship. Now, a level 3 relationship, there's some words to describe it to start with. One of the words is dysfunctional, which meaning is not functioning well, meaning it's not functioning well to give you both the needs, your needs met, the happiness that you want in a relationship. So, ask yourself this question and, what did I want from this relationship? What was I going to give to this relationship? What was my idea when I started this relationship? And obviously, if you're single, go back to a previous one. What was I wanting that actually these needs are not being met? And basically, the level 3, the lowest level, is always spoken about as the level of relationships where the disconnection is so great that there may be very dysfunctional behavior. Now, obviously, we go into more detail about that. If anybody is on here and, on either YouTube or on Facebook, and you want us to share more detail about the kind of relationships, but if I can just be broad about it and say dysfunctional, neither having their needs met, and often there will then be very behavior. Now, interesting thing is, if you're in a relationship now and you're going, before you go any further, Nicki V and Tony V, I know it's a level 3, it's the lowest, it's not meeting my needs, it's not meeting my partner's needs, it's dysfunctional, we're arguing, we're doing all the sorts of different types of behaviors like argument, anger, stonewalling, criticism, all the things that can go on, and it's affecting us and the rest of our lives, then you're at a level 3 relationship. If there's something that you would like us to elaborate on that, we will definitely come back to that, but I don't want to start talking about all the things that go on in that relationship. And if you rather than you tell me what you want to hear about.
But I think it might be worth just sharing a bit more, going, this is where, for example, Nicki's used the word dysfunctional relationships happen, and dysfunction, of course, commonly in this world can end up in like an abusive relationship, for example, where you get, and there's 3 types, and interestingly, I can't remember how long ago, the law in the UK changed, not that long ago, where emotional abuse is now against the law, apparently. So obviously physical abuse has been against the law for a long time, but if you have a physically abusive relationship, that's definitely a level 3. That's very dysfunctional. But you find people stay in these relationships long term. They get hooked in it. They become what they call codependent.
And actually what I was just thinking of is that if you're in that relationship and you believe that the other person is the problem, Tony and Nicki V are going to say to you, we've worked with many, many, many couples or if you're thinking about a past relationship, we've worked with many, many single people who have looked at their past relationship and always done the very common thing, which is to see it as the other person is the problem. Yeah. And as we said earlier on, not to be too serious about this, we like to try and be a little bit light about this, but let's be honest, if you think it's the other person, then you're like to repeat it. You're never going to get the learning from it that you need to get, because it's true that it's codependent, because even if there's one person doing what you might call abusive relationship and the other person is the victim of that abuse, there is dysfunctionality about as much. There's this is contentious stuff, so let me flag that up right now, is that sometimes it's seen as the bad person and the good person who's putting up with it. Our experience is if you're seeing yourself as the good person, then you will never solve this problem. You have to see that your behavior, your emotions about it, your way that you're interacting with that other person is just as dysfunctional, even though it doesn't seem it on the surface, just as dysfunctional, because it's somehow either reinforcing the other person's behavior or, as you might say, allowing that other person's behavior to happen.
Yeah.
Or your actual behavior is in your mind, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, so that makes me a good person. And actually, you may be wrong. It might be superior behavior, contemptuous behavior, all those sorts of things are still dysfunctional and the lower level.
Look, I think that the key thing to learn, if you feel like you're the victim in a relationship that's like at level 3, it's horrible talking about level 3, but the reality is, if you're hearing this for the first time and going, shit, this sounds a bit like me, then there's some help that you can get. But what you don't want is to, for me, if you go to a place where you carry on your behavior, in other words, you remain the victim, what I promise you that we have learned, there's many studies on this as well, it's not necessarily seen so much in mainstream medicine or science, so that is a challenge. If you go to certain quarters, they're going to go, oh, you poor thing, we need to help you like this. What we've observed, and look, we're not scientists, we don't have stats and proof and evidence, but as coaches over the years, what we've seen is that those people that hold on to their victim status remain what we describe as powerless. They've got very little energy. That's why they become codependent. They go, well, they don't have the energy to be on their own, but they don't have so they keep going back. It's like a yo-yo thing. I think in some studies it says people go back to an abusive relationship up to 7 times or something.
Yes. So the only other thing I want to just share, and then we'll move on, because can you feel the energy of what we're talking about now? And bless you, if you are a man or a woman in a relationship where what we're saying right now is, ringing true, then, as Tony said, that's the kind of thing that we assist people with. But there are lots of ways of dealing with it. But honestly, the very first thing, you cannot rush into trying to fix it, trying to make it better until you understand how you've got there in the first place. So the one thing I just wanted to add was the likelihood when you're in that level 3 relationship, which is the lowest level for those people joining us later, is that it's likely to cause the individuals in the relationship to do their pattern of behavior. And that might be, not good behavior between the both of you. This clearly will have effect on children if you've got them, but also this often leads to addictions, all the usual ones: drugs, alcohol, sugar, work, sport, the internet, and all those sorts of things, but also sex or relationship addiction, which could mean that often this is where infidelity lies, and a sort of, that's this very, very low level.
Yeah, so look, I think we'll move on from there, because
it feels heavy.
Look, it is heavy, and we are very aware that there will be people right now living in houses around the UK by the million potentially,
especially in COVID,
whereby they are in a level 3 relationship. So our thing to you is ask for help. You can obviously ask us; we'll steer you in the right direction.
Yeah, just private message us, and we'll
do what we can to assist. Yeah. So let's go to level 2.
Let's go up a level.
Raises the energy just a tad.
This is level 2. There's lots of ways of describing it. It's often called I'm okay, you're okay. It's often called the friend zone. It's like, you know, we get on. There's some people, we used to call it 2 people share a house. And by the way, just back to level 3, just for a second, this is where there can be either no intimacy, physical intimacy, or lots of unhealthy physical intimacy. At this level, at level 2, in this middle zone, where, you know, it's not like massively awful. By the way, this is sometimes difficult because it's okay. That's a difficult place to be.
Yeah, this is where the amber lights will be on.
Yep.
So you tend to go, and if it's okay, you don't want to rock the boat.
No.
But often we get people to score themselves on a scale of 0 to 10 for their relationship. 10 being it's unbelievable, the best it can be. And over this side, you've got, you know, 0 would be, oh my God, I just have to get out, but I'm not sure how to. Yeah. So if you're down, you know, below in the 3s and 4 zone or less, you're definitely likely to be in a level 3.
Yep.
But if you're staying at that level and doing nothing about it and just living with it because you're frightened or whatever, that's where you got to do something about it.
Or frightened of being on your own.
Yeah. The middle zone. So if you scored yourself in the sort of 5, 6, 7, that's the zone. And we call this the okay zone. And of course, in this zone where the amber light's flashing, it's a bit like the AA. We can, you know, can we live with that part of the car not working properly? Well, it still works. Yeah. So you keep driving it and hope for the best. Yeah. And hope that it keeps chugging along. But if you ignore it, it's going to break down and cost you more.
And so the biggest place. Sorry, I was going to interrupt you.
I was just going to say, look, you know, this is the time where you need to ask for help, because at that point, you have this sort of desire in you that you want it to be better. There can get a point where you give up. You know, there's almost like a switch that goes off. This is very true for girls. When a switch goes off and they go, right, I'm out. It's very hard to put the switch back on. Very, very, very difficult. So my guess is that, look, at the end of the day, when you've got the amber light flashing over your relationship, this is a time to ask for help. You know, this is a time to take your car to the garage and go, look, something not right with it. Can you fix it before it costs me loads of money?
Exactly. Now, the challenge with this level is this is often, we're saying, you know, kind of jokingly, 2 people sharing a house, but that is what has happened. Unfortunately, in this day and age, it's like 2 people have got together. You know, if this is a heterosexual relationship, she's got a job, he's got a job, he's got a place, she's got a place. And all of a sudden they put those 2 things together and still carry on living as individuals. Often they've got their own money and they don't put things together in one's money. They'll have their own friends, they'll have their own hobbies. Now, you might go, well, this sounds pretty okay, but it is only okay. So here's the biggest thing that suffers is there's no polarity. So there's no attraction in I'm okay, you're okay. Yeah. And the way they say it is level 3, nobody's needs are being met. Level 2, you're meeting your own needs. So you're happy because you've got money in the bank, you've got a job, the kids are okay, you know, you go on holidays, you do blah, 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 but you're only feeling okay. You've not got the passion in your relationship. Some people call it the spark in the relationship. And therefore, the thing that starts to go and starts to get very, you know, often this is where no intimacy will happen or very little intimacy will happen. So again, even though this isn't as dysfunctional as a level 3 relationship, often what will happen is then people will look outside of the relationship, either through sport or through friends or through another person, to get their intimate needs met. With a man, that will often more be likely to be sexual. And with a woman, it might not be sexual, but it's that sort of intimacy of being that so close with that person that it feels like an intimate relationship. You can tell them anything you like, you know, you can share your emotions and things like that. And a woman will turn to someone else if she's got a sort of I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely helped somebody more recently with this situation where their relationship has lost that spark, and it appears to me that she's found somebody that's supporting her emotionally, and she's more drawn to that. Now, there's no intimacy as far as we can make out,
and it doesn't really matter.
Her emotional needs are being met by another man, and this is causing massive challenges within their relationship. He, on the other hand, is having a massive relationship with his workplace, so he's like so got his head down to earn money. It was all, good intention. It's not bad intention, but because their relationship is slowly imploding, it's losing the energy. Yes, they were having intimacy. They were the first people to go, yeah, no, we don't have a problem with intimacy. But of course, that it was more sex than love, yeah. And what their heart yearns for, what the soul seeks, is to find another person where we're having a loving relationship, not just having sex and having our own needs met outside of the relationship. So often this can be very brother-sistery. It can be very neutral. It's not got, as Nicki said, it hasn't got the polarity. The polarity, the masculine and feminine energy, the right way round, the masculine and feminine energy the right way round causes the polarity, which causes love, attraction, that sort of thing. So often when you've got I always use the analogy. In fact, I found a picture on Facebook the other day, which I created. I created 7 years ago, which was I got a torch and I got the Duracell batteries, the ones with the copper coloured tops. And actually, there is 4 ways that you can put the batteries in the torch. So I actually put them in the torch, the 4 different ways, and then I demonstrate that when you put it in the wrong way round and you switch, the flashlight light does not come on. You have to have those batteries in. There's only 1 way out of 4 ways that you can put it in. Then when you hit the switch, the light goes on. So a level 2 relationship is very like you got the batteries in the wrong way round and the light in the relationship goes out. So, you end up, as Nicki said, I feel is a very good way of saying it, that, 2 people sharing a house where her needs are being met primarily by her, either potentially by what she does or the people she meets outside of the relationship or in the workplace, and his relationships are being met however he does, like can be down the pub, can be watching football, can be with his mates, not making any of that wrong, but if your whole needs are being met outside of the relationship and then all you do is share a house, then actually you'll normally find these sorts of relationships they fizzle out.
Yeah, and over time, when somebody's needs are not being met, so is it all right if I ask them a question?
Yeah, go.
Right. So obviously we started off by saying, as we're talking, as we're going from level 3 to level 2 to level 1, ask yourself a question: where is my relationship? Or if you're single, go back to the previous ones. But the other question that we often ask people is, when you think of yourself as a man or you think of yourself as a woman, ask yourself this question: in this relationship or in that relationship back then, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much were my masculine or feminine, whatever you understand that to mean in your own mind, how much were my masculine or feminine needs being met? So in other words, 0 would be my feminine needs as a woman or my masculine needs as a man were not being met at all in this relationship. I felt like it was neutral, or worse still, it was, they weren't being met at all. Or 10, they're massively met in this relationship, which actually would probably mean that you're more like number 1. Whereas at number 2, if your masculine and feminine needs are not being met, what tends to happen is you will look for that need to be met somehow, and that will take you further apart. So either, as a feminine woman, you're looking for some, strong masculine energy in your life, maybe somebody at work, maybe somebody down the pub, and vice versa. A man might go, well, I've got this kind of, relationship that's okay, but we talk to each other as if we're, like friends. In other words, we talk about work, we talk about home, we talk about children like friends, but there's no masculine and feminine polarity. So therefore he then or she then goes to work or to the pub, say when you can, and meet somebody who's got that energy. That is when it will start to plummet to a number 3, because they'll feel like, well, my needs are being met.
Yeah, so if you're in this little sort of level 2 relationship, what's likely to happen, or one of the things that is possible to happen, is if your needs are not being met by the relationship, so you're not, it's not at all. You're sort of like got this gap between you. There's no, the magnetism's died a little bit and the magnets are rejecting each other a little bit. Then, it's said that proximity is the number one place where you're going to get in and meet somebody else. Now, proximity, one of the most common places is work. So if you work, for example, this is where the Christmas office party stuff comes from, yeah? Because everybody has a bit of a drink, they let their hair down, there's been thoughts and energies flying around. Now the energies go into it's sort of very relaxed, slightly out of control mode, and boom, you got yourself into a relationship situation because your needs are not being met at home. Yeah. You'll find when you're in a really solid relationship that no matter, look, when a man has feminine energy walk past him, he feels that feminine energy. Yeah. So there's that ability to be attracted by the opposite energy is always there. It's always there. But when your relationship's solid and connected, of course, it's like a fleeting experience. Whereas when your needs are not being met, there's the need, and when that fleeting experience comes, you're likely to move towards it to yes. meet that need. Yeah. Yes. So the proximity thing is huge. It's absolutely huge. We helped a couple once. I just remember where they were in a very, very difficult position. Children are a big part of this. They got a young child, got very disconnected because often pregnancy can be a difficult time from an intimate viewpoint. Obviously, there's all sorts of emotional and hormonal changes going on for the woman. The man still has his masculine needs going on and all of that. Anyway, we ended up helping this couple. They'd already had the baby, but what sort of happened is that he had in the work situation, look, we can't judge him, can't blame him. His intimate life has been challenged by lots of factors. It's lots of factors. And suddenly this feminine energy's gone by him and he's got attracted to it. And the next minute he's all over the shop in some sort of office type relationship. Now, we managed to help them as a couple sort that out. But look, trust me, it's better not to get into that situation if you want to have a long-term loving relationship. Yes, it can be saved, but promise you that is the route to a solicitor very fast to break up what, was actually a great relationship. They're just going through a moment where they've lost connection. He's living his life. She's started to live her life. And suddenly, boom, he's susceptible to that energy. And this happens the other way around as well. So it's both ways. It's not about blame. It's more as a relationship coaches, whatever you would like to call us. We observe that by the people we help. You look at a lot of the statistics for breakups of relationship, how they break up, what causes them to break up. And most commonly, they're either very dysfunctional, so level 3s, which to be fair, shouldn't really be together in the first place, much more difficult to fix. Much more difficult for us if you come to us and you've got a level 3 situation. It's almost better for each party to go off and seek help individually because it's quite tough. We've helped some people in level 3 relationships. Whoa, this is very tough because their energy's low. One of them is victimized. The other one's doing whatever they're doing, which is often not good. They're either aggressive or passive aggressive. And so it's a lot of work to get them to see what they're doing that's causing them to have the problems. Now, when you're in the amber zone, the old amber lights going and you're realizing it's going. This is the perfect time if you want this relationship. Like I would say, look, if you're committed to this relationship, which so many people are, we were helping a couple the other week, we're going, what's your level of commitment in getting this sorted? Both of them are 10 out of 10. So now it's easier to help them as that's their commitment to get it sorted. Their level of experience in the relationship was 7-ish, so they're in the okay zone. So, but yes, obviously it's easier to help somebody like that. They've gone a bit brother-sistery. They can feel they're losing connection. They don't want to, but they're both committed. So that way, then, of course, we can absolutely help them. Now, it's tough because the one thing we're going to do is not the thing that they think we're going to do. So often, we'll say when people phone us up and ask for help, what's the first thing they start talking about? First thing they always talk about is the other person. Yeah, we've almost been asked to can you come along and sort him out or sort her out because she's driving me nuts or he's driving me nuts. Yeah, and we're going, well, hold on a minute, that's not quite how it works. Yeah, we both got to, so sometimes what relationships are about is you've got to go where you don't really want to go, which is to look at yourself. But if you're open to look at yourself, this is how we solved our lifelong relationship issues was by being brave. And I promise you, as a man, I absolutely, everything inside me told me I don't want to do that. Because what does it mean if I'm wrong? But look, somebody came and got me. It was a woman, actually. I don't even know what her name is. I'd send her a big bunch of flowers if I knew who it was. But she came and talked to me and said, look, if you don't sort this out now, what is going to happen in your life? Where are you going to be in a year if indeed this what we're going to learn now is like the most important thing you've ever learned? And she really helped me to go, right, okay. I remember sitting next to me, and actually I had realization about realization.
Making sure you didn't bolt out the room.
And honestly, I can't thank her enough for having me have an education that I hadn't had before, which enabled me then to move to what is a whole different understanding of what makes a relationship really, really work.
Yeah, and I think just before we move to the level 1, a really healthy, really, fantastic, intimate relationship, I just want to, I don't know how we're doing for time.
With 25 minutes.
I just wanted to go back to the...
not the dysfunctional again.
No, well, yeah, just to use the traffic light, use the traffic light analogy, that it's red, amber, green. Okay, and when Tony was just talking then, and he was reminding me about when we started off, and this is what we're really wanting to share with you tonight, that what you might be thinking is, well, come on, Tony and Nicki V, for God's sake, tell me, what do I do? And people always ask that, don't they? What do I do? How do I make this relationship better? Basically, they're saying, how do I jump from red or amber up to green without having to do it? Without, what's the physical thing I have to do?
Well, this is why we used to get asked. I'm sorry to butt in, but
that's okay.
I always do. I know that I do that, and you hate it. But anyway, So we were asked once to write.
Used to it, love. It's
yes,
fine.
I know. We were asked by Cosmopolitan to write a 2-page article about relationships, and they said, we said, so what do you want us to write? What do you want us to write about? And well, I should never have asked that question. It's not a great question, because they came back and said, we want you to give us our top 10 tips. I go, we don't give tips because tips don't really work. If we give you tips right now, the how, you could go off and try it, but there's a deeper, underneath every, we always call it as coaches, underneath every presenting problem, if this is the problem, then the solution lays in a completely different place to the problem itself. So we have to look what we call beyond or below the problem. So when we do tips, we're at this level. Anyway, in the end, our agent said to us, look, they're having none of it. You either do the tips or you ain't going to be in Cosmopolitan, yeah? So anyway, in the end, we gave in because we wanted to be in Cosmopolitan, did the 2-page article. It looked $1 million. This is a top 5-star, magazine, goes out to tens of thousands of people every month, or every week even. I can't remember. Maybe it's monthly. Anyway, and of course, it wasn't long before they started sending us letters. And I believe the first letter came in from a girl who said, this is so classic and why we don't do tips, is she said, I tried that number 4 tip.
Tried tip number 4, it didn't work.
Yeah, because you see, she's seeing the way we presented the tip as a solution to her problem, when actually her problem's like down here. So as coaches, we need to dig underneath.
Which is what I was going to say. Yeah. Definitely. When you were sharing then, I was going like, we could just now jump onto, level 1 and how great that feels and all the benefits of it. But actually, what we learned, and funny enough, Izzy's just asked I need to ask, is this Izzy and Harry? Because I think it is. Izzy's asked a great question. She said, a bit off topic, but can you tell me about how you got into helping people with the relationships? And it just reminded me when Izzy asked that question, which was that when we first started talking about intimate relationships, we recognized that all the stuff that we talk about getting from level 2 to level 1, or about, level 1 on its own, is all about once you've got you as an individual in a healthy space. Now, what do I mean by healthy? So what we talk about level 3, what Tony started before, we even started the masculine and the feminine, started talking about, are you in the red? Are you in a bad space in yourself? Are you in low energy?
Absolutely.
And I know this is your subject, but I think that I just wanted to just be very brief about it, which is probably impossible. Is if you're in low energy, you're going to have, this is a big thing to say, but if you are not in a good place in your own life as an individual, the likelihood of a level 3 poor relationship is not just high, it's a given. If you then work on yourself as an individual within that relationship or without that relationship, then the likelihood is you won't just get up to the amber zone where it's I'm okay, you're okay. As you learn more about yourself as an individual, you'll get out of those into a healthier relationship. So I just wanted to say that, because otherwise it's so easy to go, this is all about intimate relationships, when actually what Tony and Nicki V absolutely stand for and believe in is that we believe in working on yourself so that you have a great relationship. Yeah, and Izzy, I will answer the question. And
but I think it is a difference when you go, what most coaches, we're definitely a bit more, out there, should we call it, but get fantastic results because we're not coming at it from just what you can do to get your relationship better. Like, have a date night, have signals and signs and stuff like that, which is, bless him, we love him. The Venus and Mars guy, John Gray, we got to meet him once. We shared a stage with him. He loved what we did. We actually love what he does. And of course, there is that deeper side to it. And look, he's a doctor. He's more of a what you would call uses more counselling, practical
but also
advice.
We learned loads from him about what causes level 2 and level 3 chemistry in the individual man or woman.
Absolutely,
huge.
So he's written
we'll go into that one
books.
Day.
Yeah, he's written 18 books about relationships. He's the most sold personal development author of all time, which is interesting because obviously relationships are the area of life. We've been doing the 10-10 life check. If you haven't done that already, do go to www.10-10.life and take the life check. Yeah, when you take the life check, you're going to get a score for your life. And I think I would encourage you all to do that. And it's all part of our charity. You get, some videos to help you improve things. But it's exactly what Nicki says. The first thing to do, which is what we did and what we found really works, is what we help people with, is to look at yourself, work on yourself. What am I doing that's not working here? Rather than go, give us some tips, and then we find out it doesn't work. So we are going to that sort of underneath the problem, rather than just looking at the problem and giving you solutions.
Yeah. So we're the big solution, which we are giving you, which will, those of you who know us well will say, you always say that, and we will always say it forever, is you've got to look at yourself. So up to level 1.
I do believe you're not going to have a level 1 relationship unless you've looked at yourself.
No,
I think
agree.
It's unlikely. I
Totally.
do believe that you could come into on the planet and be, a very green, what we call it, a green person. These people are quite rare. Most people hang out in the red zone, not the amber zone. But let's just say, those people are having the relationship challenges, whereas in the green zone, you're likely to have practically no challenges. And even if you do, you're going to be able to resolve them because you'll have the tools to resolve them. But anyway,
it's a bit like when you do, if maybe once, 1 week, we'll do for those new people to us, the road to fear, road to love. Basically, the question is, are you on the road to fear, meaning you're on the road to, not good stuff, or are you on the road to love? And there are 2 directions, and what you always tell the story, don't you, that you learned that you can't be in both places at the same
Absolutely.
time. So level 1, it's when Tony teaches the road to fear, road to love, remember why I'm saying it now, is he writes all in red, all the things that are like level 3 and level 2, to be fair. And then he starts to write about the green, the road to love, and there's less. It's like there is some fewer words to describe it.
There is.
It's like happiness, love, trust.
I remember meeting a bloke who was do you remember? Is his name Dale Carnegie? He was a trainer before Tony Robbins. Is that his name, Dale Carnegie?
Well, Dale Carnegie's probably dead now, but anyway.
But he was I believe it was him anyway. He was one of his trainers, and he wrote a little book, a little yellow book. No, it was a little yellow book, and in it he argued. I can't remember the exact number, but when you think of the English language, it's got a huge amount of words. Most of them are unused. I think let's just give you some numbers. They're estimate numbers, so don't hold me to it. But let's just say there's 250,000 English words. Yeah, we only use about 20% of them. So let's just say, on average, the vocabulary of somebody in the UK using English is about 50,000 words. Now, what he says is what's so interesting is that only 1,500 of those words have got what they call a positive tag or a positive connotation. All of the rest either are neutral or negative. Now, when you hear and listen to people's language, the green words, that's the 1,500. When you increase your use of the 1,500 words, you might still be able to find it. Last time I looked, it was out of print, but go and have a look. You'll find it's a little yellow book. It's
not Dale Carnegie.
It's not.
How to influence friends and how to influence. To make friends and influence people.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever. Go and have a little search. See if you can find it. It's a little tiny, like a little pocket book of the 1,500 words, which you can get into your vocabulary. I actually used a lot of them, use them today, and I've changed my vocabulary, and that helps you get more into develop yourself personally, get your energy up because you're using the more positive words, which I never used to use.
There's sort of fewer words that describe this place of polarity, of unconditional love, of having a relationship. We always say at a level 1 relationship, you're both in a good place. You have, you pay attention to each other's needs. And that's where, when we talk about needs, again, level 3, nobody's needs are being met. Level 2, meet your own needs. Level 1, both of your needs are fulfilled. And the statement that's made, which is actually quite unusual, is it says that in a level 1 relationship, that Tony's needs are my needs. In other words, I make sure that I understand what his needs are and have a desire to meet them. And my needs are Tony's needs. He wants to know what they are, and he wants to meet them. And that is the definition of a level 1 relationship.
And look, do we slip out of that sometimes? Yeah, because do we get got bits on situation, circumstance? We're human, and that's okay. But what this whole thing is if you go, right, let me understand and learn what my partner's needs are. Now, your partner's got what I call 2 sets of needs. They've got the needs of their sex, should we call it. So a woman has needs of a feminine self of a woman, yeah? And men have needs as a men. And these needs are quite different. So what we notice when you're in the lower realms, you as a man are filtering through your male world and thinking. So I always go, look, imagine as a man, you're walking around and you're wearing blue glasses. And then as you look at something, you go, yeah, it's blue. And then you're talking to your woman, but she's got pink glasses on. And you're saying to her, but surely you can see it's blue. I can see it's blue. Why can't you see it's blue? But of course, she's got pink glasses on. So what we need to do is we need to understand as men what that thing looks like when they've got pink glasses on. So you're not going to know this when you're at a level 2 or a level 3. But at a level 1, you go out of your way to find out what the world looks like through pink glasses. Because then that's your needs of your woman. So you can go, okay, it's my job as a man to meet those needs. But I need to discover what they are first. And this is where as education goes, we've never been taught this. And this makes it very difficult because it means we automatically get into level 2 or level 3 because we don't have the tools. So think of it like this. Look, I'm a man. I've got to learn what women's needs are. And as a woman, you've got to learn, what it looks like through blue glasses so that you can...
Pink.
Well, from a woman, you've already got pink glasses, yeah?
Yeah.
But you've got to learn what your man sees through his blue glasses so that you can meet those needs. Now, that's your first set. So you need to meet their needs as a man or a woman, whichever way around it is. And then the second set of needs is the needs of the personality. So Nicki V...
The individual.
Yeah, the individual. And so I know that Nicki V, you need to know their favourite colour. I always go, look, if you're going to take her out for something to eat, which, we can't do at the moment. But anyway, look, am I going to take her to, a restaurant? Like, I know everything she likes, so I'm not going to take her to a restaurant. The worst place she'd love to go, I think, would be like somewhere that was like a kebab house. She doesn't really like that sort of food. So if I could take her to a fantastic 5-star cuisine restaurant,
or McDonald's,
or whatever, I am going to choose.
But
what she loves.
That the breadth of things.
I'm getting a bit lost in that, but I just go, look. Right. The truth is, find out what she wants and give her that. Yeah.
I can give you a really good example, which will help you understand, hopefully, the man and the woman. Is that like we were living in Glastonbury at one time, and when we got there, we stayed in little holiday homes and things, didn't we? And then we wanted our own place, and Tony went to see somewhere, and knows so well what I love that he actually came back and said, I've got somewhere we're going to go and see, but I've got news for you. I've already said yes, we're having it. And he loves, so that's my needs, knowing that he would never take somewhere, he would never get a house that didn't meet my needs. And he knows my individual needs within that are certain, look and feel of the house, certain ways, like things like the bathroom.
There might be woo-woo stuff, which is like things. The energy of the house, but then there'd also be the individual things.
Yeah, but actually, the one I'm talking about was 600 years old, but nobody had ever lived in it since it's been redeveloped. So that would give a good indication of what I love.
It was actually made out of the Glastonbury has got like an old abbey, which was all taken apart by the people when it went into the Henry VIII basically desecrated the monasteries.
I'm just laughing because this is meeting your needs.
It desecrated the old monasteries, and then the people in Glastonbury went and nicked all the rocks and started building houses out of it. Anyway, this even had the door from the church, which they desecrated, and it had a couple of windows in it. Beautiful. But it was amazing, of course. So it was great energy, and I knew she'd love it.
Yes, you knew you'd love it. And what Tony wants, so you go, oh, well, then do you have to understand what he wants in a house? No, I just know he needs to be able to choose that without me getting involved. That works in our relationship. It won't work in every relationship. Some people go, what? He actually went ahead and bought a house or got a house. It wasn't bought, it was rented, but it doesn't matter. It was like, he actually went and did that. That would drive me mad because I'd want to make sure and think. But what we're going to say is your individual needs. I love the fact that he went, and he loves the fact that he's got that freedom to go and do that. Yeah, so that's a good example, I think.
Knowing that person, everything they like, from the music to what flowers they like, what colours they like, So like intricately, it's your job to find out what the other person loves personally, their style, what they like, what they eat, the way they want to live. Because look, if you're, I always remember Chris Rock, he's making
like you love it tidy.
Yes. Chris Rock always says, look, you're never going to find, a born-again Christian will always be with a born-again Christian, and a drug dealer will always be with a drug dealer, yeah? So he's going, a born-again Christian's never going to live with a drug dealer, and that's because they've got similar needs. So it's always good if your relationship is where the two of you have similar needs. There's no point in one of you wanting to live, in a block of flats, and the other one wants to live, one wants to live in the city, and the other one lives, in the country. I lived with a German girl once for a while, and it wasn't until I got to Germany and stayed in her house that I realised that the German people, I don't know whether this is a generalisation, but she told me that German people sleep with their window open. Now, in my world,
a lot of Europeans do.
In Croydon, we ain't sleeping with the window open. Yeah? It's too fucking cold. Yeah. Anyway, so it's like the winter there. It's snowing. And we've got the window wide open. I'm freezing. So that is a difficult one. I was in a relationship also with somebody that smoked. I don't smoke. This is not a good start. Yeah. This is not a good start. So it's better to start knowing your individual needs when you're in the sort of what in the old world you call courting stage. Before you get fully involved. You need to find out whether you're in the same sort of thing,
And honestly, we could go on about this for hours. We won't, because actually they are individual needs, which, as Tony said, If you don't find those out, here's the problem. Even from our generation, people have started getting into a relationship. They take more care about buying a car or getting a house or even buying a new set of clothes than they do getting into a relationship. They rush into it. It's all done on attraction and things like that. And then they find out that the person has needs or habits or patterns that they don't like.
What about the girl? The girl once we were helping where, they got into this relationship and she would not let him drive her car. He's got a bit of an old car. She's got a Mercedes.
I've got a 12 years no claims bonus.
Yes, he's not driving my car. I'm going, well, hold on a minute. He's living in your house and you're sleeping with him, but you're not prepared to let him drive your car. She's going, no. Well, what do you think is happening there? What do you think is happening with him?
So neither's needs are being met. So we have a question, which is a little off
We've got 5 minutes. We're going
to have to do this on speed then.
Go.
I'll
shut up.
Very funny. Right. The question is from Izzy, a little off topic, but what inspired you to help others with their relationship?
Okay.
This is probably a 3-hour story. You've got 2.5 minutes. So I've got 2.5 minutes. Then you go first.
Men go first.
You like going first.
I'll look at the clock.
Meeting your needs.
I shall finish at 57.5. Yeah. And so
that's the clock.
Here it is.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even know we had the clock.
Anyway, what inspired me? Well, it was like I had done such a bad job of relationships. I mean, I can't tell you. My relationship score for my old relationships was so low. And, I'm not going to blame them. Obviously, I'm not, because I've learned that that's not smart, I could tell you of situations where it might sound like I'm judging them or making them wrong and I'm the goodie and they're the baddie, because that's what people do. But if I look at how well I handled those situations and scored myself on a scale of 0 to 10, I'd be a 5 or less. And believe me, that's a very, very, very low score for me. But what I always say is I didn't have an education. So once I got educated and then, we got into a relationship, I would always say that it was like revelations that I had. It was like I've been given pieces to the jigsaw puzzle of life that I didn't previously have. So I've got these big gaps in my jigsaw puzzle, so I can't finish the picture. And once I got those pieces and I got them into place, I sort of knew what to do. I knew what to do. Now, I'm not saying I don't trip up and sometimes I, get it wrong and that's, but that's okay. I know what to do to fix it. Whereas in the old days, I didn't know what to do to fix it. And of course, very quickly, what happened, now we ended up teaching it, is that people started to see our relationship as something that they'd like to have. So we got asked by other people, could we go and speak at their events and talk about our relationship? There you go, on the second. Over to you.
That is the first time in nearly 18 years you've ever finished on time. That's a joke. It's not true. Okay, I've got 2.5 minutes. Actually, you've already answered the question. The truth is, Izzy, that we never sat down, which I think was probably why we went from literally just being asked to talk about our relationship, which was very flattering. It was actually a fantastic woman called Judy May Murphy, who you may have, she's quite a well-known speaker. And she came to our wedding, as many other people in the personal development field did. And she came to our wedding, and we got married. Well, we got married after a month. This is a very long story, which I'm only going to have another 1.5 minutes to tell you. We got married we got together in Kuala Lumpur, married after a month, illegally, as we call it, just two of us in bed with a couple of rings, and then married in Palm Springs another month later, and then legally in London after 3 months. And she came to our wedding, and about 2 months later, she phoned me and she said, would you come and talk in Dublin? And I said, what do you want me to talk about? And she said, would like you and Tony to come and talk about your relationship. I've never seen, a relationship that seems to have all the qualities that people are looking for. And she used a few phrases like, as you can see, we had lots of fun. We're not perfect. We're working on ourselves individually. We don't blame the other person. Well, not very often.
But it doesn't work if we do.
It doesn't work if we do. And she asked me, and we went along. And on the plane going over to Dublin, we basically got, not that we smoked, but like a bit of paper, back of a fag packet, as they call it. And we wrote down what it is that we believe makes our relationship work. And we wrote having individually being in a great place, which we then called you're either in the red or you're in the green. Being in your core gender energy, either as a woman in your femininity, a man in your masculinity, and being healthy in your mind, body, and spirit. And that we have taught since the beginning of 2004. And we've never really steered away from those three things. And that's how we got into it. People asked us, more people that knew us, more people asked us. And really, that's how we got into it.
There you go. And you're
Stop it with the
You're
hand.
only 20 seconds over. You took 15 seconds.
Yeah, but you know.
Anyway, look, you were amazing, and that's all that matters. So that's it really for this week. Tony, Nicki B, #4.
I tell you what, I've got an idea for next week.
Go.
I think this would really work. You know how we've talked about masculine needs, sorry, pointing the wrong thing, masculine needs, feminine needs, and how you really understand what are the basic core needs of a man and the core needs of a woman. I think that might be a good subject for next week. What do you think, Tony V?
I'll consider it, and you will see it.
And you will make a decision when?
I will. Probably next Saturday in the afternoon.
Yeah, the other thing that makes the relationship work is Tony does the deciding.
Yeah, it's all good. So that's it from us, Tony, Nicki B. Thank you for hanging in there. Do send any questions in or comments or whatever you want to do.
Thank you for being here.
If you want to ask us any questions or you've got a subject you'd like us to talk about, then put that in the box. We will obviously look at that and go, yeah, how could we talk about that next Saturday night, 7 o'clock. We'll see you then. All your comments on Facebook, whack them in there. If you've got them on YouTube, whack them on there. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do hit the subscription button and the notification bell. And if you know people struggling with their intimate relationship life, please do hit the share thing and share it with them.
There are lots of videos on there as well.
Yeah, indeed.
And I've put on here www.1010.live, so maybe we need to put it on there.
Perfect.
And if you're watching this on replay or whatever they call that, do still put notes, feeds, because we'll still find them.
Yeah. Beautiful. So
thank you, Laura Applewhite.
Yes.
Thank you, Cheryl. And we've got amazing Adam Ashburn, Izzy,
amazing,
Ali Hassanai.
It's the Australians are in.
And Amy Porter, Izzy Gayada, I think it is, Izzy, and Nigel Irving, Jessica Joan, James Stevenson.
Come on.
Love your videos.
Yes.
And fantastic. Thank you for being here tonight. I've had fun.
Yeah, no, it's been amazing. See you next week. Great. Any questions, ask away, and adios. Have a fantastic rest of the weekend.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.